Have you ever regretted a card you bought? Today I'm gonna show you what to look for so that hopefully you don't regret it ever again. Punch it! Hey there guys! So today I'm just gonna go through some listings that, show some of the things that I want you to see. This is going to be basically how you evaluate cards, what to look for, and then ultimately avoid much of what leads you to getting junk, making mistakes when you're buying stuff on listings that you see online. Sometimes the pictures aren't that good. For example, you can see right here this card. Near mint, it says right there. The standard on eBay especially, near mint can be anywhere from like lightly played to really truly mint. So it really depends. You gotta do some investigating yourself. This seller here, this is someone that I've bought from before, and so I know a little bit of what their quality and standards are. So that helps. But I'm just going to tell you those things that that I'll be talking about today. First of all is take your time, right? If you rush through it, you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you'll miss stuff because you took your time, but if you're, not Bill Gates, you're not buying tons of stuff, you don't have tons of money to just throw at these things, then you want to take your time because there's a limit to how much you can buy. And if you waste money somewhere on on junk, you're not going to have that money for something else. So it depends on, of course, your budget. I'm not ever going to talk about personal budgeting because that's very personal. However, it's important to have that, and you don't want to waste it. The second thing is the philosophy. My philosophy in looking for cards and all that kind of stuff is that you can afford not to buy it. So say you used to say this card here, $13.99. Say that was what used to be your big ticket item, right? Hey, each to their own. Now it's $50. So if you can afford to spend $50, you can also afford not to spend $50. Remember, this is not essential stuff. SM Pratt just did a video on this too, ironic. This is not essential stuff. This is extra. So you can afford not to spend it. All right. The second thing, part of that, the philosophy, is when you're trying to make a deal, and the question you have to have in your mind and the attitude you have to have in your mind is, can they afford not to sell it? Some people are in this to make money. Some people are in this because it's a hobby. So it's important to keep that in mind too. And that affects it for different reasons. That's a whole another video for another time. All right. And then lastly, what do you look for? So here we are looking at this electrode card. This is a jungle, no symbol error, non-first edition, of course, electrode hollow. Now this card here, I thought looked pretty good. There's a couple things, and like I said, I know this seller, Elite Four Games and more. And not that he paid me to do this or anything. I'm going to knock him a little bit here too, but he did some great stuff. So looking at this card, I'm looking for things that show edge wear, anything that might indicate there's a problem. I'm not seeing that here so far. What else? Corners are always a great spot. You can see there's a little bit of a sheen on the card here. That's a good thing, because you can see the surface of the card and what it really looks like. So that's nice. Looking in the hollow, you want to see if there's any lines or anything that sticks out. There's a few things up here in this part. And if we zoom in, you can see maybe something in there, but I'm not seeing a lot. Some of these lines on the right side of the hollow look like part of the hologram. Now, of course, this card is correctly labeled as we get down here where the symbol would be. No symbol error. So this shows me that the seller at least knows what he's talking about. And again, I know the seller from before, but still, let's assume we don't, right? So if you see that it's properly labeled and that it is actually what it says it is, that's important. Sometimes you see stuff and you're like, that's not a shadowless, dork. Okay. You might also want to look for blemishes or something like that, but I'm not seeing much of that on the front of this card. So let's go to the back. Here's that sheen again, top left corner. There is a little, or top left corner below the corner right here. There is a little edge wear right on the corner there. Some more whitening on the corners there. Tiny, tiny little speck of something on the top right there. Maybe. I'm not seeing much that says anything about scratching. Not seeing any scratches in there or anything like that. There's some more whitening and edge wear on the bottom left corner and the bottom right. But overall, this is a very nice card. It's not mint, obviously, but yeah, I might buy that. Another card from this guy, Pinsir. I wanted to show this one because of this glare and shine off the top left corner there. Excellent, exactly what you want to look for. If we look down into the hollow, there is some scratching on the right side just off of his claw there, off Pinsir's claw. This is another no symbol error. Not seeing much of anything. There may be something here on the bottom left. I'm gonna circle around it with my mouse there. Bottom left. There may be some indication of edge wear there, some silvering on the edges. Top right corner has something funny looking up there too. All right, I'm just moving on. And so when I look at these things, I am super detail oriented. I was a QA guy for a little while, and yeah, a physical QA guy. And there you go. I evaluate cards with a magnifying lens, just to give you an idea. That's something I saw there, and why I wanted to use this example. You can see that scratch on the right side in the center, halfway down the card. There are other little buffing, there's scratches and buffing there, little fine ones next to it. Look for those kinds of things. There's not a whole lot wrong with this card, though. The back, the edges look better than the electrode. So, you know, this wouldn't be a bad buy either. There may be something right there above the button on the Pokeball, too. So, in the red. So, you know. Okay. Now, here's another one. This one, so it says, thankfully, MP, moderately played, medium played, yeah, something like that. And so if you look at it, you can see first off scratches all over the hologram. That's pretty bad. What is this? $15. So Elite Four Games and More was cheaper and in better condition, clearly. Other things we can see here. Around the edges, there's a darkening or discoloration there. Kind of strange, almost as if there's dirt or something there. So that's an indicator of something not so great. This picture is a high resolution, but it's low. It's not in focus. So, or they had, you know, grime on their lens. So that makes it a little harder. But they did include many pictures here, so that's good. You can see there's some silvering right here in the surface of the card. Some nicks. There's something on the side here, right here. If I zoom in, you can see that. What else? Silvering all along the bottom edge there. I'm hesitant. Now this one looks actually... Nah, that image doesn't look much better. This image is nice. Thank you for including the larger close-up view. You can see more of that nicking there on the edge, so on. This is where it gets interesting. See the mildew right there under the K in Pokemon? There's a blemish on the N, on the far right side of the N there. There's edge wear up on the top, some silvering, no doubt. And when you look at an image like this, sometimes you'll see things that look like artifacts, like just inconsistencies in the color, but usually, or oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes that can indicate that there's dirt or something on the card, and the way that the camera picked up the light just isn't so great. So while I was going through and finishing up, I reloaded the pages, and it turns out someone bought this from under me. So, a perfect example, guys. Look, I can afford not to buy this card. Not a big deal. If it is money you don't have to spend, you can afford not to spend it, right? There's always another fish. So anyways, there you go. It happens. I've lost some immensely good deals, and I've made some really great ones too. So thanks for joining me.